Is capitalism inherently racist? And does capitalism produce essentially slavery? I delve into this topic because I've heard about these ideas kind of on the periphery for a lot of years, and now those ideas are definitely on the forefront. Um, Continuing on the hot button issues that are on the tip of the spear of societal evolution. That's what we're doing on the Utah Stories podcast. My name is Rich Markosian. Thank you so much for joining me. Hot off the press is our new farm issue. Man, I had fun. Last week I talked to farmers all week long. I did a farm story about Burgess Orchards, which is the last beautiful, amazing orchard in Highland, Utah. Unfortunately, Burgess has 10 acres surrounded by multi-million-dollar tech millionaire homes. He is selling out his farm. How and why he decided he'd rather have the cash than produce the crops. You're going to have to pick up the issue to read that one. But it's available right now all over Utah, or you can get on our website and subscribe to Utah Stories by clicking on the subscribe button. Okay, let's dive right into it. So, when I was at the U, I'm going to date myself here. 20 years ago, I was hearing about all these cool Marxist professors, and they had this great Marxism professor there, and they were like a callback to the 60s, and just like, we need to bring the power back to the people and the proletariat. And I didn't understand much about Marxism, honestly. When you're a little 20-year-old mush brain, you kind of just go with the flow. You want to be cool. Yeah, Marxism, sure. But so now, as I've been covering news from the perspective of small business owners for 12 years, I'm starting to understand I should study this better. I should understand what this is. So I've spent the last few days examining the socialist point of view. I really wanted to try to gain an understanding of how socialists think and why they equate capitalism to slavery. One of the very first stories we ever did at Utah Stories was we examined this beautiful historic granite block in Sugar House. Sugar House is this sort of exurb of Salt Lake City, just this historic, awesome little place with walkable neighborhoods. They were going to go in. This one developer bought up all the property. He's going in and just bulldozing the whole thing, just leveling these buildings because they couldn't stop him. He owned the buildings. There was not enough historical preservation on the buildings. And so a lot of people are like, well, this is because capitalism sucks. Capitalism is a super flawed system. And I was like, man, maybe it is. But then on the other hand, you look at America and the United States, and that we have this capitalist society, and you see all of this wealth that has been generated from this society, from corporations that build up and grow, and small businesses that are small corporations and can build up and grow and produce products and employ all these people and produce all this wealth. And so it's like I see the difficulty and the problems with crony capitalism, and I report on it, how our state legislature and our city councils all over the Wasatch Front are full of these developers/politicians, and they want nothing more than to get rid of all the farms in Utah. I mean, that's why I love talking to farmers every year about this time of year, is our state legislature places farms on the lowest pedestal when it comes to land use. They want to build over the top of every single square inch of Utah, which I like to point out is completely contrary to Brigham Young's vision for this valley. Brigham Young placed agriculture and farming on such a high pedestal that he told the Mormons, don't ever engage in mining and speculation. Work your farms. Build your wealth in the soil, in the ground. So, state legislature, who's mostly LDS, go check your history and see that that is the truth. But all right, so back to our theme. We're going to be talking about the socialist alternative and the rise of capitalism and the emergence of racism. This is a long article. I read the whole thing yesterday, and I have to say this article is far more fair to what I expected it to be in, because as I started studying the whole topic of slavery, you come to find out that slavery was by no means racist, because all racists were engaged in slavery, especially in the 1500s when the slave trade became popular. There were plenty of white slaves. There were plenty of black slaves. There were plenty of slaves of any creed or color that were slaves. But then the slave ships from Africa started coming from there and landing in places like the Caribbean and the U.S. Virgin Islands, and then the 13 colonies. About half of the colonies were slave states, and half were not. So the idea that capitalism is racist is based on the idea that capitalism was about exploiting workers to create wealth. And I think the most telling part of this article, let me find it here, that really gets to the heart of what this believes, is this sentence right here. I'll read this paragraph. The most fundamental social conditions that must be examined are the relationship between classes, which themselves arise depending on how society organizes production. Different ways of organizing production gives rise to different classes. History has known a number of different forms of class society, but the common feature is a minority ruling class who exploits the working majority by expropriating, i.e. stealing, the surplus wealth created by their labors. This is the fundamental division in society. So, you have the working class who are working in a factory or working on a peasant farm or working in a mine, and you have the capitalists who have control of the capital, who are exploiting the labor of the working class to gain their profits. And they call it expropriating or stealing. Now, I'm going to zero in on that and unpack that aspect of it, because that, I think, is the heart of this argument. This guy goes into Frederick Engels, a lot more subjects, but I think I need to stick with this because it's just too broad of a topic. So is it stealing, is my question, to take someone's labor and have a business, or take multiple people's labor and be earning a profit on their labor? Because if that is essentially stealing, then how does anybody own a business that isn't stealing? Because if I hire somebody to help me write a story, take a photo for the magazine, deliver Utah stories all over the Wasatch Front, then I'm stealing, because if I earn money to pay myself, then their labor is theft, and that theft goes into my pocket. But my question is, who am I stealing from? Am I stealing from this person who's agreed to work for me by the amount of money I'm willing to pay them? Am I stealing from them? Because that's kind of weird. Are they agreeing to allow me to steal from them? Or am I stealing from the government? Does the government own all of everything? And because I'm using their labor and I'm earning a profit, I'm actually stealing from profits that belong in the government coffers? That is my fundamental question, because I've read this whole entire article. I've tried to break down what it is, the fundamental precepts that they're believing, and I believe that profit equals theft. And let's contrast that with what, let's say, the Austrian school of economics believe, which is that everybody operates in a free market. Everybody has a right to use their labor however they see fit, and to find the highest and best use of their own labor. Now, if you have that ability in a free market system, isn't that superior to a system where the government controls the means of production? Because that's what socialism, Marxism, espouses, that the government should control the means of production. The government should control the workforce. The government should tell everybody where they're going to work, how much they're going to get paid, so that there is no theft involved. But if you allow an individual to have the right to choose where they want to work, and no government or no superior entity is telling them where they need to go, how is that not superior? So I'm opening up, really this question for debate, because I've been getting a lot of messages and posts. We're having some dialogue on social media that I want to share with you, and that's my fundamental question when you examine Marxism compared to capitalism. And so I don't want to disregard the negative aspects of capitalism, because what capitalism does essentially, especially in a flat world where we really operate now in an international market, is it always takes the people who are willing to work for the least amount of money in the worst conditions, and all of the businesses that are making products are going to go to those places. And I mean, as much as we love Nike shoes and Apple computers and iPhones, those products that we love are built typically in the worst possible conditions, because those companies can only make big profits if they're able to make their products cheaply. And we are complicit in the whole system of exploiting a workforce. Because I'm not going to say capitalism by any means is perfect. It's absolutely not. And under the capitalist system as well, as we pointed out, the highest and best use of land, I don't think, is building a concrete jungle. And I've been saying that for 12 years now. We need to preserve open space and land, I think, for our own mental health and well-being. But is our government doing that? No, because they want to pad their own pockets. They want to help their cronies in government and their political and friends to create this good old boys club, so they can essentially monopolize the buying public and stave away the competition. And then also I read about folks like Warren Buffett. What is it that makes a great corporation worthy of investment dollars? And he says it's got to have a moat around it. It's got to have some sort of protective mechanism so that those earnings continue year after year after year, and those shareholders keep receiving those dividends. And what is that moat that protects those earnings every year? That it protects that revenue stream, so that this S&P 500 keeps going up and up and up and up and up. Those are government protections. The government colludes with the capitalists to take our freedom. I mean, it's really no more simple than that. So whether you're looking at it from the left, saying that capitalism is akin to slavery, or you're looking at it from the right, saying that Marxism is going to kill our freedom and our democracy and our fair markets, I actually believe that both sides have a common enemy. Both sides have an enemy that we should actually stop fighting each other to understand. And that enemy is the elitists. The elitists in our society are trying to pull the strings of both the fair and free market, which I believe the system is absolutely rigged to a large degree, and they want to control and monopolize what they will call the fair and free market. And those elitists, they work in banks. The banking industry is full of elitists who work with politicians. Big food, big agriculture. If you understand who runs the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, is like this revolving door, in the USDA it's a revolving door of big wig big food, big ag producers going in, rigging the system while they are in control of the FDA, the USDA, so that those revenue streams continue. And so I'm not arguing that capitalism is fair. I'm not. It's unfair. But if you look at what's going on in our country, why people want to come here of all colors, creeds, races, why they basically will kill themselves to get into this country, it's because we have some preservation of individual rights, and we still have the ability, a lot of people, to come here living in complete poverty, who have the ability to work hard and rise up that socioeconomic ladder because they are able to preserve their wealth to a degree. They're able to own private property that won't be confiscated by the government. And private property is an essential component to capitalism. A lot of people want to say private property is also racist. No, without private property rights and the protection of those rights, what would be the incentive for anybody to work hard? And so that's pretty much my summary. I suggest you read this article. It's really interesting because I don't think it's poorly written. I think it's actually I really appreciate it that it points out that slavery was among both black and white people. Anybody living in the Ottoman Empire who knows the history of the Ottoman Empire knows that there were plenty of white slaves that were traded and treated horribly, just alongside of any race that was in slavery as well. So with that, I want to read to you some of the comments we've received on this culture war documentary. It's a kind of a short documentary I made about the culture war, examining it in the past 3 years. We were looking at both the riot in Salt Lake City about a year ago, as well as what the social justice warriors are doing to make social change and to improve conditions, both the good and the bad. I suggest you check it out. But here's some interesting comments. So Monty Piling said, "Wow, that was a poorly researched article. I'm quite surprised by how stupid and faulty the logic was and just how wrong most of the, quote, facts are. More of an op-ed at best." I love, actually, negative feedback. I do. I just like, let's go ahead and rip on whatever I'm producing, because I actually do want to find the truth in these stories. So just tell me what's wrong, though, Monty. Tell me what's wrong. What is stupid, and what logic do I have in this that's faulty? But that's pointed out by these two readers. Cody said, "It's easy to criticize. What do you offer to counter the article's information?" Cody said that. Then Matt says, "Agreeing with Cody, if you were to quote an actual, quote, stupid and faulty logic and dissect it, or call it out as a specific, quote, fact, which is wrong, it might strengthen your argument. That takes research, however." Yeah, tell me, Monty, what is wrong, what is faulty about my logic? And then Amy Maxwell, one of our writers, actually, appreciate this comment. She said, "Go check out what the Tribune is doing with the discussion about critical race theory actually is. Radio West provides a real nonpartisan take on the issue." I will check that out, Amy. Thank you for providing that. And then I had this interesting back and forth with a reader named Victor Perry. He said that you published a story entitled "The Culture Wars. It amazes me what far-right pablum and lunacy is accepted for publication in Utah." And again, I'm trying to disseminate from these interesting adjectives, pablum and lunacy. What is it specifically, the pablum and lunacy? He says they have this extremist claim that BLM is Marxist. It would be hilarious if it weren't so pathetic. And I just said, Victor, I said the local BLM chapter is doing amazing work. Lex Scott, I really praise the work she's doing, because it's actual police reform that absolutely needs to happen. I covered in 2012 the corrupt police department in Cottonwood Heights. Police reform absolutely needs to happen. Lex Scott of BLM Utah is doing that. But the national leaders of BLM, Alicia Garza, Patrice Cullors, and Opal Tomlin said in an interview, myself and Elisa in particular, we're trained organizers. We are trained Marxists. They called themselves Marxists. So that's why I said that. And then he said the local chapter is not Marxist, and I know that. I'm not claiming that the local chapter is. So let me go back into the back and forth. I don't know who you are referring to the organizers as founders, but he's then saying, let me take a wild guess. You're probably Mormon. And I said, everybody who attempts to make assumptions about Utah Stories, our political bias, religious affiliation, ends up being wrong. We did a story comparing Trump to Joseph Smith to just show how extremely charismatic characters actually do a lot in terms of shaping the world and the body politic. You can check out that video. But our objective is honestly truth. We want to find the truth in all matters. I do not have a political, partisan, ideological point of view. I want to understand truth. I am biased in terms of my upbringing, of course. I believe in small, limited government. I absolutely believe in that. But we cover land issues, open space, the environment. I'm a very much a big fan of the mountains and the environmental preservation here in Utah. So I said, dude, wild guesses actually don't add to the conversation. And then Victor at the end said, thank you. You're right to call me on that. I can't assume that you have an affinity with the Mormon Church, although I was speaking hypothetically. I appreciate your fairness in publishing my comments and candid replies. I publish all sorts of, I appreciate negative comments. So seriously, call me out in my BS. Show me where my faulty logic is, because it is absolutely our goal to get to the truth. That's what I think the partisan spin on everything is so obnoxious. I did not have cable TV for 8 months. I have it again because I need to watch those Jazz games. But I just cannot stand watching these guys. It's just like spinning everything out there, distorting the truth in every way possible. Both sides do that. I think that's enough of that crap. And if you want to join us at Utah Stories, where we try to find the truth in all the important issues in Utah, that's what we're doing. And if you want to be a bigger part of Utah Stories, subscribe to our digital newsletter, where we'll send you one email per week. Get the voice of local Utah delivered right to your inbox. Go to utahstories.com to get that. And you'll learn about our Utah Stories Night events, where we connect with you in bars and pubs in downtown Salt Lake City, where we talk about some of these issues. You bring your story ideas, we'll give you gift cards. It was super fun. We had one at the Garage on Beck, and we're going to have another one at the Green Pig Pub in June coming up. So with that, go pick up Utah Stories Farm Issue or subscribe to the magazine. The button for that is right here on our website. And thank you so much for watching. If you would share this episode, if you like this content, of course, that would be the biggest ask I could offer you to help spread the word, because we don't market this program. We don't have a marketing budget or a marketing team. If you could share it on social media, that would be awesome. Like, subscribe to the channel if you'd like to. And thank you so much for hanging out. I'll see you next time.